Hello, creative friends. I've been having a lot of fun with a jewelry making wall hanging, beaded wall hanging with some kiln fired ceramic pieces and beads. Before I give you a tour of the whole thing, I would like to do a demonstration of the ending of it. What images would you like to put on a similar wall hanging? I'm on the last part of it right here. I'm going to assemble it just like this piece. This is beading wire. I have looped it through this hole in the owl with a crimp bead. Now, this is the crimp cover that is a little bit hard to hold on to, but I'm going to flip it upside down so that the closure of the crimp cover will be on the back. And you can do this either with pliers or with your hands, like I'm attempting with my fingers. There we go. Using a pliers, jewelry making pliers, to squish the crimp cover so it covers up that little crimp bead that holds the wire in place. I've got a tutorial about how to do crimp beads that I'll link in the description of this video. Now, this is a kiln fired clay bead that I'm stringing on here. Then I did something kind of different at this end. I had some extra space on the wire. Let's zoom in even closer. I had some extra space that I decided to cover with these red seed beads. So there were 5 on each side. Let's count them out after putting the crimp bead in place. So with this project, you can see that beads and stringing beads don't just have to be jewelry, although you certainly could use parts of this as pendants or necklaces. All right. There's crimp bead, and I'm going for 5 of these little red seed beads. I also want to mention the importance of taking a picture of the order of your clay pieces before firing them in the kiln so you can remember how you want to put them together. I'm Kathleen Arola-Johnson here at Creative Solace Studios. Thanks so much for watching and subscribing. I'm an online art teacher with a background in elementary school art teaching. I like to do a lot of mixed media art, including nature journals and art journaling. After putting the 5 red seed beads on, I followed it up with the clay bead and 5 more red seed beads on the other side. The silver crimp bead is like tying a knot, I like to say, in your projects. It holds the beading wire in place and doesn't let those beads escape off from it. I used a crimping tool on the crimp bead and snipped the end of the wire off. And let's see where we're at. Yes, ready for the last cover, the crimp cover. These are just decorative open beads that cover that crimp. And I'm maneuvering it to try to get the seam of that bead on the back side of the project, if possible. And closing up that crimp bead cover. Let's put the cap on these seed beads so I don't do any spilling. I've done that before. And let's take a tour through this fun project. I love inventing new projects and having a good time with playing with many different art supplies. Let's do the close-up look first. So this is where I will hang the wall hanging on a little nail or tack on the wall. Then there's a lot of kind of architecture, I guess you would say, in this piece. Balancing out how to get the pieces to go together. Every time you see one of these little gold crimp covers, that's where I snipped off part of the beading wire and sealed it with the crimp bead. So the kiln fired clay pieces are these. I have used some glossy glaze on them, shiny, and some matte glaze. The kind of pink, peach, red, speckly color underneath there is a kiln fired glaze that was matte. Then the gold, I actually, for the first time on clay, used Liquitex acrylic ink in iridescent bright gold. I tried to scratch a little bit with my fingernail to see if it would rub off. So far it hasn't. I did put some of it on top of shiny glaze also. So far so good. I mean, you could seal it with something if you want to try that, but when this is hanging on the wall, I think it'll be fairly well protected. And it absorbed really well into the bisque where these beads did not have any kiln fired glaze on them. Moving along, I did a little top bead that was connected to the heart. And then just having different beads and strands hanging off from here, pressing different texture into the clay. The owl, I had a hard time deciding, did I want to keep it on this big project or did I want to hang it by itself? It was so cute. I really like in the owl how the matte glazes turned out, and then the shiny on the beak. I do wish I would have flattened out the connecting bead that I attached to the back of the owl, because the owl has a tendency to go forward a little bit, lean forward, but when it's on the wall it hangs pretty straight. And here's the fun little foot and leg of the owl that we just finished. So let's take a look at this whole project, top to bottom, start to finish. I have another tutorial or a tour of another beaded wall hanging that I'll also link in the description. I really am enjoying this one. I can't wait to find a place for it in my house to hang it. I think I will. I'm gonna go back and I am going to add some of the acrylic ink onto that part because this does show a little bit. But how fun is this? I hope this gives you some ideas for some of your own projects. Whatever kinds of beads or jewelry making or wall hanging you decide to do, leave me a comment and let me know what this might inspire you to make. Thanks so much for subscribing and spending some creative time with me today.